Got traffic there. Blaster, just take it up to the departure end of the runway, then a left turn and a left downwind. Cessna over the...
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Three, two, one.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for joining this Pilot Careers live stream. We're here to bring you some background about the exciting new Jet2FlightPath scheme, which is going to see 60 aspiring pilots trained and joining the Jet2 fleet in the coming years. So I'm joined by Rob and Josh. Thank you both very much for joining us. I'll give it to you for 30 seconds just to talk about who you are and what you do within the company.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Johnny. Really great to see everyone. My name's Rob Clark. I'm the General Manager for Future Pilot Programs here at Jet2. I've been with the business for 6 years, and I've got the huge joy of supporting the business in bringing in future pilot talent. And I'm joined here by my fantastic colleague, Josh Raven.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, good evening, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here this evening to talk to you about Jet2FlightPath. So my name's Josh. I'm the Future Pilot Program Manager here at Jet2, and I look after a number of future pilot opportunities, including that of Future Second Officer, which some of you may have heard about, and also most recently supporting the launch and integration of Jet2FlightPath into Jet2. I've just been with the company around about 2 years or so, but my original job was with Jet2 a number of years ago. So I've kind of done full circle back here supporting early entry pilot routes to Jet2. So that's a bit about me.
Brilliant. So we've got 330 people now watching, I'm seeing here. So we've got some questions that we'll run through shortly. I'm sure there will be tons of questions that pop up in the comments as well. So we probably won't get a chance to answer everything. But to just give us some background, Rob and Josh, can you just talk through the program for a few minutes about how it came about and what the objectives are?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start with that. So Jet2, as many of you may know, is a business that has been operating for over 20 years now. So I guess in the airline and aviation world, we're still relatively new. But anyone who's followed us will have seen our growth over those years, and we've got a strong demand for pilots every year, and that's because we keep opening bases, we keep expanding the routes that we fly to, and customers seem to like our holidays, and we take a lot of people on holiday. And I guess that's the first thing to say is we're a bit different from some other operators in that we are a holiday business with an airline that takes people on holiday. So we have three main routes for pilots into our business. The first is we recruit fully experienced pilots who may have operated with other airlines, and because of the fantastic terms, conditions, benefits that we offer, those pilots join us, and we have the benefit of 13 UK bases to operate from, which is very attractive. And of course, our benefits for all our crew is great. On top of that, we have our industry-leading Future Second Officer program, which is a program for pilots at the beginning of their career. They already have a license. They found a way to fund their training already. But they're looking for their first commercial aviation job. And our Future Second Officer program takes people with, dare I say, no airline experience, but they have the full license, through a 20-week immersive program where they can understand everything about our business. And then at the end of that, they undertake a type rating and join us as one of our second officers. It's a hugely amazing experience if you're a bit of an aviation geek like I am, and many others are. But on top of that, we, because of our growth, And because of the way the industry is, we want to protect our growth for the future. So we're looking ahead, and we are funding 60 places for people with not necessarily any aviation experience to try and obtain a training place and train with one of 3 leading training providers, with ultimately the aim of joining us as a second officer and finding their place in the right-hand seat of one of our Airbus or Boeing aircraft. Not only is it going to help us secure our future growth, but the other exciting bit is we are trying to widen opportunity into the fantastic aviation arena. So I know through my experience that aviation is a fantastic career. I have operated commercially as a pilot in the past, albeit in the rotary world, and it's a fantastic job. And but we know that finding the finance to fund your own training is not an easy job. So by removing that barrier, we are hopefully persuading or encouraging people from all backgrounds to think about aviation as a career, think about life in the flight deck as a wonderful career, and we're removing that financial obstacle to encourage people who may not otherwise have considered a piloting job into that excellent career going forward. So it's the entry criteria is can be found on our website, but we've got the lowest entry barrier of any funded airline scheme, again to try and encourage that diversity of applications. And what we're looking for are people who have potential. I can see already in the comments that there's a lot of questions about our application process, and more than happy to talk about that a little bit more in detail. But really what we're looking for is potential. We're not looking for people who necessarily have got a whole load of aviation experience. We're not necessarily looking for people who've already got lots of flying hours. We're looking for people who are passionate about aviation, would really love the opportunity to undertake a pilot and flight deck role, but perhaps have been held back by the financial barriers or other barriers that they've come across in life. And a lot of our testing is all around assessing potential. We're not looking for you to have the ability straight away to fly an aircraft, but we want you to have the potential not only to go through the rigorous safety critical training that our flight training partners offer, but also to be suited to a career with a life in the flight deck. It's a wonderful career, but there are also certain elements of the job that need consideration. It's the antisocial hours, the setting the alarm at 2 o'clock in the morning, the fact that you can't necessarily be sure that you'll ever got your family's birthdays off again, the fact that you'll be very busy operating in the summer, which is when all our customers want to go on holiday, the fact that we'll be assessing you on your professional standards and how well you wear the uniform, the fact that we want you to give great customer service to our customers. The other important thing to know is that the modern aviation world is not about necessarily flying the plane, it's about operating the aircraft and managing the crew. So the job is a bit different to what some people expect, but the good news is that there's a little quiz on our website where you can go and see if an aviation career, a piloting job is right for you. So that's a little bit of a background about why we're here today, what the program is designed to do, and a tiny little bit of a flavour about life as a pilot, but more than happy to answer questions.
Fantastic. Right, so we'll kick off with some that we've been sent in advance by some of our previous Pilot Careers Live visitors. So quite a quick one, I think, to begin with, is do you have to pass each stage to then go on to the next one?
Yeah, I can take that one if that's okay. So the answer is yes to that. So yes, you need to pass each stage to reach the next. It's stage gated effectively. So you'll pass the first stage, move on, pass the second stage, move on. If you're unsuccessful, let's say the third stage, then that would conclude that recruitment journey for yourself. So yeah, you'd need to pass each stage right the way through to all of the stages completed to then be offered a role as a Jet2FlightPath trainee.
Okay. Can you give any background as to what's being assessed as part of the cognitive assessment?
Yeah, sure. So this really comes back to the potential element. So the cognitive assessment is really, we've built a profile with our assessment partner around what's required, what it takes to undertake the rigorous training needed by our training providers. And as I sort of briefly mentioned, we're working with three excellent training providers: Leading Edge, Skyborne Airline Academy, and FTE Jerez Flight Training Europe. And so our profile is built on what they need for you to successfully complete their training, but also what we need from you to be a great member of the flight deck. And some of the things we're looking for are very obvious to you. We want no doubt, which is we want you to have great potential to successfully operate and manage an aircraft. So we want you to have good flying skills. We want you to have reasonable numerical skills. We want you to be able to learn at a reasonable pace. We're not expecting everyone to be mathematicians or scientists or experts in aerodynamics, but we want you to be at least a little bit comfortable in those subjects. And so that cognitive assessment is us understanding how well you meet the profile that we set with our assessment provider, and is not just us saying, this is what we're looking for. It's a group of business psychologists and using big data to work out, do you meet the profile? Do you match other people who are excellent in this area? So I hope that kind of somewhat helps with that question.
Yeah, fantastic. So a question that we got asked a lot was about the three training providers. So Skyborne, FT Jerez, and Leading Edge. Now, there is some ability to select a preferred training partner. Can you just talk a little bit about that, and also why that might not necessarily be a good thing?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So as Rob's clearly explained, we've got three training providers available to us. Two are based in the UK, albeit with some overseas training activity, one based in southern Spain. So whilst you are able to put a preferred training partner forward, we will allocate you the training partner that will be allocated at the time. And really that depends on when you're successful with the application process, when you're able to start, and a lot of moving figures with regards to that. So whilst we'll take into consideration a preferred training partner, it really will depend on, as I say, when you're successful and what is the next course, depending on which school the next course is with, etc. Will depend on what training partner you go with. So yeah, hopefully that's the question.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point I was making about not being a good thing is often people think, I can train close to home, but being away from home can be beneficial to you when you're studying and learning and that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, if you think that we've seen there's a couple of questions in the chat regarding basing, once you start flying with us at Jet2, and I could probably sort of loop this into the same bit, which is, whilst we'll take absolute your base preference into account, there should be that preparation to, be based somewhere new and somewhere different, and the experiences that comes with. And, we've seen it through the Future Second Officer program, where we've had candidates come through that might not necessarily be based at their home base, but have moved to a completely new base, and actually it's been a really nice fresh start for them, and they've new set of friends, etc. So we'll take into preference, but we won't be able to guarantee that.
Yeah, and just a brief point on your bases. I mean, some people don't quite realise the scale of Jet2 nowadays, and you're based at, is it 12 or 13?
13, Johnny. Yeah, 13 bases up and down the UK. So this is probably something that really stands out for us here at Jet2.com, is there's opportunity for you to be based pretty much anywhere in the UK potentially. So lots of opportunity, and I think, as Rob's rightly alluded to there, we want to open up opportunity for as many people as possible, and having bases up and down the UK allows us to do that.
Yeah. A question which came in about progress during training was how was progress monitored, and I think the context of this was obviously training will be provided by the training provider, but do you have any sort of Jet2 monitoring of things as training's going on?
Yeah, it will be no surprise to anyone on this webinar, I'm sure, that as an airline investing a significant amount of money in an individual's training, that we will be monitoring with interest how that trainee progresses, but in a supportive and nurturing environment. Our training providers are very familiar with and understand how trainees progress during their training, and it should be recognised that almost every trainee will have a blip along the way. maybe someone needs a little bit of extra help in a particular ground school exam. Maybe someone's not quite grasping one element of the flight training. So if the question is worrying, if the question is coming from a place of sort of worrying about overly strict standards, yes, we will expect our trainees to make good progress, but in a supportive and nurturing environment. And our training providers are very good at spotting and dealing with and mitigating and rectifying what those issues are. And I should probably say that we would love to offer many hundreds of places, but of course we can't. This is our first year of operating this kind of program, so it is likely that the individuals who are successful will stand a very good chance of doing very well in the training. So progress and someone's ability to complete the training should not cause any individual a undue anxiety. So it will be monitored mostly by the training provider, who will speak to us on an individual's progress. But most things have been seen before and can be supported and helped and resolved.
Yeah, brilliant. We had one question about career progression at Jet2. So could you talk about just the theoretical, somebody applies, passes, does training, ends up doing a job, where beyond that would they end up going? Could they end up going?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I think the first thing to say is, we like to position ourselves as a career-based airline. We have a lot of opportunity for pilots looking to join us. And, once you've completed your flight training with one of our providers, obviously you'll join Jet2 and go on a type rating on either our Boeing or Airbus fleet, depending on what's required at the time. Then once you've completed line training, you're on the line, you can really start to look at what your career progression looks like. And whilst the sort of standard career progression for a pilot at Jet2 is the rank-based progression, that of second officer, first officer, senior first officer, and captain, there's actually over 52 different roles available for pilots who fly with us, and that ranges from 80% flying to 20% ground-based roles to 20% flying 80% ground-based roles. So lots of opportunity for someone looking for a long-term career with us at Jet2. The other thing that's really important to say is we're a meritocracy-based airline, and what that basically means is, we will allow those to progress or to move into roles that is best suited for them. It doesn't necessarily mean it's the person with the longest career at Jet2, or the person with the most hours, or the person with the most stripes on their shoulder who would get potentially a new role within Jet2. It's really down to the best person that best fits that as well. So we see a lot of excellent career progression within Jet2, and as I say, lots of opportunity for those looking for a long-term career with us.
Excellent. I'm just going to jump into the comments quickly, because I did see a good one that hasn't been asked yet. So here we go. So is there a chance to reapply for the scheme if you're originally unsuccessful?
Yeah, this links back to another question that I've seen in the comments, which is it our intention to run this scheme for more than 1 year? The short answer is yes. We do anticipate this being an ongoing recruitment campaign, so this won't be the only time that this program will be available. However, none of us have a crystal ball, and should there be a significant change in the market or in the economy, then that might change. But at this stage, it is certainly our intention to run it for more than 1 year. So yes, if you are unsuccessful in this campaign, you would be eligible to apply for the next.
Okay, brilliant. We had quite a few questions about the Arctic Shores stage. So in summary, I think a few people were possibly waiting to hear back about something, and when can we expect to hear back about this? Have you got information about that?
Yeah, I mean, with regards to this one, I think the important thing to note here is, we don't necessarily process applications in a linear way. So if you're sat there that you've completed an application but have not yet heard anything, please be rest assured, the team are working through that and are progressing applications where they're able to. So, we've still got another week of the application window being open. So, still receiving applications and processing those. So, it's not unusual for you to have just to wait a little bit longer just to get them to potentially the next stage or to hear more back from us. But be rest assured, we will be in touch in due course. With that.
Okay. A question I've seen a few times in the comments, as well as being sent in a couple of times. Does holding a PPL have any negative impact on an application?
No, it doesn't. The only element of aviation experience that we ask a candidate not to have done, and that is to have sat a CAA ATPL exam within the last 19 months. And the reason we put that stipulation in place is because there are timescales set against completing ATPL exams, and if someone has completed those, then it would restrict our ability to complete someone's training. So really that's a link with the CAA rules rather than any Jet2 imposed stipulation. So having flying experience, whether it be gliding, helicopter or fixed wing, has no negative impact. We do, assess everyone's application on an individual basis. If you have a PPL with many, many thousands of hours, then, we might see that application slightly differently to someone who's got a PPL with only a few hundred. And the reason for that is around ability for training. But, so certainly no negative impact.
And probably just to follow on to that point around the PPL is that I've again seen some questions that say, I've got a PPL, therefore will I not have to do part of the integrated program? The answer to that is no, you'll still need to follow the same syllabus as everybody else, whether you've got a PPL or not. It just might be a little bit easier for you for that stage of the trip.
We've got a question from, I guess it's called Lawrence. What's the expected time frame from the scholarship process from start of selection to training? Can you give some more background on that? Will applicants begin training at the same time? I guess that depends on which ATO they go to.
Yeah. So the courses that we have provisionally booked for the trainees run from September through to February of 2026. So obviously the campaign closes next week. We will then work over the following 2 months on fully assessing those candidates, and anyone who is successful will then be offered a place on one of the courses, one of the ATOs, between September and February. And the allocation of courses really depends on availability at the time, someone's notice period, etc., and some other factors. No, it's not all at the same time. It is staggered.
Okay. Another one from Archie here. Can you just discuss the structure of each stage? I'm assuming that means post-application and when you're doing the assessment phase, and the timescales associated with them.
Yeah, of course. So the good news for anyone who hasn't applied yet is our application process and form is very straightforward. It's mostly just a series of eligibility questions. We do ask everyone to have completed our interactive exercise on life as a pilot to make sure everyone really knows kind of what they're getting into. You're given a passcode at the end of that, which you'll enter into application form. There's also a very short motivational statement that we ask people to complete as part of that form. After that, anyone who progresses to the next stage will be asked to complete the Arctic Shores Cognitive Ability Assessment. After that, there are some further online testing, which includes numerical verbal reasoning, detailed checking. We have some pilot maths and physics questions that we're asking candidates to do. After that is another testing stage of pilot aptitude. Again, that is through an assessment partner. And I'm being a bit careful about what I say now because, as Josh said, it's not a linear process and we handle applications in batches. So some people will naturally hear at a different rate. Even people who apply on the same day could hear at a different rate. Don't take that personally as any judgment of your application. It could just be that's the batch. That's the way we've dealt with your batch of applications. So it could be as short as 1 or 2 days to progress to the next stage. You may then be given a timescale to then complete the next set of tests, which could be 3 or 4 days. The only bit of advice I can provide on that is make sure you check your email at least once a day, and also to check your junk or spam folder, because sometimes our emails do go in that direction. And then after the kind of online testing phase, we move then into the more face-to-face phases of online Teams interviews. There's also an assessment centre at the very final stage, which will be held at our Leeds head office, and we're anticipating that stage will take place in mid-July. So timescales may differ between individual candidates. Again, there's no judgment there. The only other bit of advice I'll be given is it is very easy sometimes for people to make a mistake on an application form, which could hinder someone's application. Our application form is pretty straightforward, so please do take the time over it and don't rush through it, because we wouldn't want you to accept, select an option which would render you ineligible for the programme. So just be careful with that.
Great. A question kind of in 2 parts. So AGL UK says, is there an upper age limit for the application?
Yeah, happy to take that one. So in short answer to that, no. We're accepting applications from a variety of age ranges, and I've also seen a few comments in the chat there regarding sort of second careers. We absolutely encourage that. We're looking for people that want to start this off as their first career, but also those that have really aspired to do this over a number of years but just not had the ability to do it. We really want to open that opportunity for career changes. Obviously there is an upper age limit with regards to medical standards and retirement, etc. So that is taken into consideration. But absolutely, what we would say is that regardless of your age, drop an application in, and we can absolutely take that further. But no, an opportunity open to all ranges, all career kind of all parts of where you've been at in your career, for sure.
Yeah. QC says, do you have any advice for the motivation question?
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of detail in our application guidance around how to complete that. But I guess to extend the question further, it will be no surprise to everyone, I'm sure, that we will be assessing that in various stages throughout our application process. And the key bit of advice is be natural with it and be authentic. Don't try and think about what we want to hear. We've been recruiting pilots for quite some time now, so we're very familiar with what AI can chuck out at us, and maybe what some of the advice is on the internet from maybe providers who are looking for your money and doing airline test prep and that kind of thing. And that stands out a mile. So again, be natural, be authentic, be your true self, and don't be surprised that we might come back to it at another stage. So if it isn't truly what you believe and what you think, then no doubt that will come out at a different point in the process. So yeah, that's our advice. Just please be honest.
Brilliant. I'm sure this is a short answer to this question, but does having applied for any other training programs such as BA Speedberg Academy disqualify you in any way?
I can take that one. So no is the answer. It's treated independently of any other application to any other provider.
Excellent. I'm just scrabbling through comments now at the moment. There was another one quickly about the... let me just look for it. Aurora Shores.
Whilst you're doing that, Johnny, there was
Yeah.
a question I saw earlier that I think would be worth just calling out. I think someone was asking, is this type of program looking to replace that of existing routes into Jet2, such as Future Second Officer? And just to reassure, we're looking at multiple entries into Jet2.com. So our Future Second Officer program is still very much alive. We're recruiting 60 Future Second Officers this year. So those that are going modular down the modular route or self-funded integrated, then there's still opportunity for you into this year and next. So just to reassure there.
Brilliant. And something that I think you kind of alluded to earlier, I was speaking to one of your future second officer or former future second officer program pilots who is now flying the line, and he was telling me about the experience he got working at check-in, working with engineering, working with dispatch, all that kind of thing. Do you envisage flight path applicants, if they are successful, doing that sort of touch point around the business sort of thing?
Yeah, so basically we're looking at introducing what we call Discovery 360, which is we're taking the best of what is our Future Second Officer program, the 20-week program, to the flight deck and condensing that down into roughly 3 to 4 weeks throughout the 18-month Jet2FlightPath program. So we like to think this is quite unique with regards to an application or an opportunity such as this one. Is we're not only going to train you to become airline pilots, we're also going to train you to become commercial airline pilots, and there's absolutely a difference in that. We always say that 40% of the job is flying the aircraft. The rest is made up of working as a team, supporting our customers, representing the brand, etc. So Discovery 360 will absolutely give you immersion within Jet2.com and Jet2 Holidays, so that when you do get on the line, you'll see all of the best bits of what makes our airline so successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Whilst I'm looking through and just highlighting some comments, is there any messaging you want to get out to people who are in the process of doing the application or starting the testing?
Yeah, I think some people think there's always a kind of a magic solution to some of this, to some of the kind of online selection exercises, and I guess I just want to highlight that we're looking for potential. And a lot of our testing is designed for that. We're not looking for the finished article. And I guess there are some individuals or companies out there that will try and tell you that they can give you the secret to a Jet2 assessment. And I'm sorry to say that they can't. So by all means, please do your own research as you would for any job, any role, any opportunity, so you're prepared for the selection tasks ahead, but please don't think there's a kind of magic formula. Indeed, our first assessment, the Arctic Shores assessment that a lot of people have been talking about, is designed to assess for raw potential. So actually, it's almost impossible to do any practice or preparation for that. And I'm going to let a little secret out of the bag, which is being a pilot. Dare I say, is a lot about muscle memory and potential and following instructions and knowing how to learn. It isn't necessarily directly related to intellectual ability. So if you are someone who maybe thinks, oh, perhaps I'm kind of not clever enough, or I don't have those skills, well, please put that aside, because I can assure you that we have pilots from all walks of life who've done lots of different jobs in the past. It is a job that needs dedication and commitment and application, but it isn't necessarily always a job that needs massive levels of theoretical intellect. So I guess that's a small philosophical point from me. Others may disagree. So I must highlight that that's possibly a slightly personal view on my side. But Josh, I think you probably agree with me on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
Great. So real simple one, which is actually worth mentioning, is when's the closing date?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So the closing date for Jet2FlightPath is a week today, midnight next Tuesday. So you've got until midnight next Tuesday to submit your application.
Yeah, thank you.
And on the second part of that, which is I'm abroad or on holiday, the first sort of 6 stages, possibly 7 stages of the application process are all done remotely. so they can be done sort of wherever you are in the world. The only elements that can't be done remotely would be our in-person assessment centre, which is taking place in mid-July. So if someone is not, physically in the UK, that wouldn't hinder an individual's progress.
Brilliant. That's very good context to add there. So talking about the training as well, just remind us, what is paid for? Does it include accommodation in the UK and Spain or USA?
Because we're trying to widen opportunity and break down some of the barriers into the flight deck, the fundamental premise is that an individual should be able to exist on the flight path program with no other resources. I'm not saying that anyone on this program can live a luxury lifestyle, but there is enough support to kind of live on and get by. So in terms of what is paid for, anyone undertaking this training will need a Class 1 medical. So if you are successful, we will pay for that. And for those of you who are not in the know, a Class 1 medical costs just under £1,000. So it's not a cheap medical to get. After that, we will need to do some referencing and some vetting to make sure that you can operate to the standards required of pilots. So that talks about background checks and criminal record history, that kind of thing. But then beyond that is the training itself. And I won't talk about the costs of flight and theoretical training, but a quick Google search will tell you the many thousands of pounds that it costs to undertake that training, which is also covered for by Jet2. So accommodation is provided for the entirety of the course. It is an integrated course, and given the demands of the course, most people would agree that it's better to be amongst like-minded people when undertaking training. So that's why accommodation is provided. Depending on which training provider you go to, either we will provide a living allowance, or we will provide the food and drink through their kind of on-campus facilities. And to give you an idea of what that is, the living allowance is £100 per week if food is and drink is not included, and it goes up slightly if you're stationed or posted to the USA. If food and drink is included, you receive a slightly lower amount. And also transport and travel when going to overseas training locations is also included. The bit that isn't included is that if you already have significant financial commitments. So it's true to say that a lot of our pilots make many sacrifices to pay for their training, undertake the training, both in time and in money, and with family and loved ones and friends. Now we're removing the biggest financial barrier to this, which is the training costs, and also we're making life easier by providing accommodation and a living allowance. But what we're not able to do is give individuals a salary whilst training, and we're not able to pay for people's other financial commitments, such as mortgages or loan repayments or credit card bills, or anything like that. And I think probably the vast majority of people on this call will understand the reason for that.
Yeah. Excellent. There've been a couple of questions asking about post-training bond, and are you tied to Jet2 for a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. So the answer to that is yes. There is a bond that is, you will be bonded after you've completed your training. It's a 5-year bond that we ask for. So you need to stay with us for 5 years. If you choose to leave before that, then there would be an element of the training to be paid back. So yes, how long is the bond period post training? That's 5 years is the answer to that.
And we have covered it, but there was somebody asking about type rating. Does it include all of the type ratings which you take with Jet2 in the future? So yes, it would. I guess it would be Airbus or Boeing.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, be either an Airbus or Boeing type rating.
Yeah, fantastic. There was a nice comment that I saw from someone called Love My Dog. Everything paid for is a dream. I'm eternally grateful that you're supplying this opportunity for people like me. So I guess that's it's a sign of a healthy industry at the moment that you're matching the country's biggest airline in terms of their contribution on their own fully funded scheme. So it's really good for us to see, and I think the number of people viewing is probably indicative of the number of applications you're getting. I think I've noticed about 470 was the peak.
Wow.
Watching this.
Well, Johnny, you make a good point there, and I'll just reflect on it in terms of the buoyancy of the pilot market. We're very fortunate as an airline to receive many hundreds of applications, not only for our future second officer program, but also for direct entry. And we're fortunate that we have good terms and conditions for pilots. For anyone on the call who's not aware, pilots are well compensated for their efforts, and it is a safety critical job. And just to reflect on a couple of points, is by having pilots from different backgrounds with good strong core competencies of communication and professional standards, firstly, we're enhancing flight safety, because people's natural skills will come to the fore, and we are a safety focused business and airline, and safety comes first at all times. So not only are we widening opportunity, but hopefully through this we're also increasing flight safety, because everyone from different backgrounds will have a different view. And that individual there said they come from a care home background. Well, I know that in care homes and in medical settings, they have to comply with rigorous standards in terms of treating and dealing with other people. These are absolutely the kind of skills that we need in our pilots when working with partners on the ground, in the air, dealing with our customers. So fantastic background there. The other thing just to say in terms of our program, because other airlines do offer a funded program, is we like to think, and I would say this, wouldn't I, from Jet2, that we're a bit different in terms of an airline. We're lucky that we've only been around just over 20 years, but in that time we've developed a really strong brand and an ethos. As you say, we operate from 13 bases right across the UK. We don't currently have a base in the southeast of England. So if you want to spend the rest of your life in deep dark Kent, then I'm sorry. At the moment, we're probably not quite for you, because we don't have a base there. But pretty much anywhere else in the UK, we're pretty well positioned. But also think about, dare I say, in the aviation world, we're all friends behind the scenes, and we all know each other. So we're all delighted that we're offering this program, but we all have a slightly different flavour. And we really want people applying for our program to appreciate the flavour that we bring to the party, understand our ethos, and know that what we're all about. Other airlines do what they do very well, I'm sure, but if they're the right airline for you, then please apply to them. So please do your research about what we're all about and what we're looking for. We're very much a kind of roll up your sleeves airline, get stuck in, call a spade, and both Josh and I really enjoy that. But if that's not for you, then have a little think about your options.
Yeah, brilliant. I've seen two questions asking, basically people saying, I'm not old enough to apply this year. Is there any advice you can give me going forward to potentially next year or further in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the first thing to say, as we said earlier, is that we envisage this program being year on year, should everything continue in the way we'd hope it to. So there will be opportunity in the future for those that aren't able to apply this year. With regards to what you can do between now and applying for your initial next year, I think the best thing to do is reflect on kind of what what you understand a Jet2.com airline pilot to be, and as we sort of alluded to earlier, that's not just about the technical aspect of flying the aircraft, but also the wider piece, which is that good understanding of customer and the importance of customer, working with colleagues, being able to build rapport with colleagues, being able to support each other. One of our values is work as one team. We want to see people do that. So things you can do between now and applying for the role next year, maybe think about some part-time jobs that you could get that could put you in a customer service environment or working with other individuals. That would be something really beneficial. You may want to look at getting a role within sort of aviation, whether it be, in one of our airports or whatever it might be. If you're a bit younger, Air Cadets is always an excellent place to start. That's going to teach you a lot of life skills there as well. So I think the best thing to say, just reflect on what the role of a pilot looks like. And as Rob alluded to earlier, on our Jet2 Careers website, there's a bit of a course that takes you through kind of life as a pilot. You may want to, have a look at that, knowing obviously you can't apply just yet, but have a look at that about what are the important points that a Jet2 pilot is, and have a think about what you can do to try and prepare yourself for that next year.
Yeah. A couple of questions that I have seen. One here from Bello. Are we correct in saying this is an ATPL and not an NPL course?
Yeah, simple one. That, yeah, correct. It's an ATPL course, not an NPL. For those of you who might be a little bit new to aviation, an NPL course is training course. Effectively, at the end of the course, you will do the same job. You will fly in the right-hand seat of an aircraft, but that course restricts you pretty much to that airline. A lot more training is done in the simulator rather than the aircraft. There are pros and cons to both routes, but the course that we're offering is an ATPL course.
Yeah, brilliant. Now, I appreciate that no 2 days are ever the same, but Ellie Hall says, what does the roster look like on an average month for a second or first officer?
Yeah, so I think the first thing to say is, as a leisure airline, there are certain parts of the year that are going to be a lot busier than others. That's generally our summer period. You can expect to work, both weekends, days, nights throughout the summer, and it's going to be busy flying for you. Whereas in winter it gets a bit quieter, albeit we still have a number of sort of winter destinations that we operate to. So you will still fly. With regards to what a roster generally looks like at Jet2, we operate what's known as a variable roster. So that means that one day you could work 3 days on the row, have a couple of days off. You could then work 6 days on with a few days off. So that roster can really sort of vary depending on the time of year. Obviously, all airlines are governed by flight time limitations, and we want to make sure we look after our crew from both, FTL perspective, as it's known, and also from a fatigue perspective. So we recognise that summer can be hard, and it's a lot of flying in short spaces of time. So we really recognise that. One of the things to say with Jet2, and again that puts a slightly different, I would say, to maybe some other airlines, is we have what was known as a crew development team within Jet2, and part of the role of our crew development team, which is the team Rob and I both sit in, is to look at how we can make flying the best possible for both pilots and cabin crew, and rosters is a big part of that. So I guess to reassure everyone that's listening today, we want to make our rosters great from a lifestyle perspective, and really an enjoyable roster for many. So hopefully that answers the question.
Brilliant. That's great. Well, we've been here nearly 50 minutes now, so I'm just echoing what a few people are saying. Mark Rose, thank you for your time to present today. It's been very informative, and it is a phenomenal opportunity, as so many people are realising.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Mark. Yeah, no, a really exciting opportunity for all of us, for sure.
Yeah. Before we end the stream, I'll just give you as much time as you want to say any final closing words, any messages, any technical information that you want to get out to people who haven't applied.
I guess just to reiterate what you just said, and also Josh, I mean, this is a great moment for us in Jet2, and we're all very energized internally as well. I saw a little comment there from an internal colleague who's asking about the contract. It's a very small technical point, but it would be a full-time contract after completion of the training. We're really excited internally. Whenever we're walking through the corridors, we're being stopped and asked about this program. Josh and I are both currently sitting in our commercial HQ, which is in the centre of Leeds, and we're passing people who are working in finance or working in marketing or working in learning and development, and everyone's really excited about this opportunity because we love it. We love the ability to give opportunity to people, whether it be in the flight deck apprenticeships, graduate programs, whatever it might be. And this is just one more element in that sphere. From my perspective, I've been in aviation all my life. I think it's a fantastic industry. Sadly, not everyone is going to be successful in securing a place, and I wish everyone who applies the best of luck. Someone once said to a colleague of mine, it's not that you're not a great pilot, it's just that you're not a great fit for us right now. So if you aren't successful in year one, then please apply another time. If you're dedicated to career in the flight deck, there are other routes and opportunities. Josh talked about air cadets getting a job with us, speaking to pilots, cabin crew, other people in the aviation industry. So please don't necessarily think that being in the flight deck is the only career available, albeit it is a wonderful career. And I guess all the best for those people who've applied already. We absolutely wish you all the best luck, and hopefully we'll get to meet some of you in person in due course, either remotely on an interview or in our assessment centre.
Brilliant. Great. Well, Rob, Josh, thank you both very much. Good luck to anyone who has applied and who is going to apply. And also, if people out there do want to learn more about next year, come to Pilot Careers Live in Manchester in July. You can get your tickets at pilotcareerslive.com. And yeah, Rob, Josh, thank you so much again. It's been a really interesting and very busy stream.
Excellent. You're really welcome.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Cheers. Have a good evening, everyone. Take it easy.
Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.